Now, one person who didn't take that warning came on one of our tours one evening. Now, he's in the back of the group with his wife, and he turns to his wife and says, "I really have to go to the bathroom back." Now, the tour is about to go into the woods, and as I told you, there used to be a wonderful, and I use wonderfully sarcastically, porta potty that was over there. So his wife is like, "Oh, no, I don't want to go without you. Can't you hold it?" He's like, "No, I really have to go," and he takes off. Now, he goes as quickly as he can, comes back, but the group has already left. Now, it's okay. He's prepared for this, right? He has a flashlight. He takes it out, hits the button, and just like every single horror movie you've ever seen in your life, the battery's dead. Doesn't have any batteries, doesn't have a backup flashlight. And he thinks, you know what, I'm not going to bother because it's a pitch black night. It's just a wall of darkness here instead of a path. And he's like, I'm just going to wait at the car until everybody comes back. But then he remembers the scared look on his wife's face and how much she wanted him there with her. And he decides, you know what, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go and meet the group. So he walks the path. Now it is so pitch black. The only way you know you're still on the path is you have to drag your feet. Exactly, right? Because if you go off into the woods, you might fall into a crater, and it's not a good thing. So he's dragging his feet as he goes, and the whole time he feels like he's being watched from the woods. He also feels like he's being followed from behind him. He can hear the dragging and the gravel behind him kind of echoing. And when he stops, it stops. And when he goes, it goes. And this will plague him the entire 20 or so minutes that it takes him to finally catch up to the group. And when he does, his wife shines a flashlight back and is shocked at how pale, white, and scared her husband was. Now, normally that is a great way to start off before walking down the dark path. We got a beautiful sunshiny day. It's not the same feeling, but still, it is quite an interesting area, as you will see. So we can head towards the river. The biggest part of being out here is the legend. Now I say legend, I don't just mean like, you know, one of those off legends that don't really mean that much. I mean a significant legend, a very well-known one, not just in Ancaster, but in all of Canada. That kind of gives the place its energy, has given its, let's say, paranormal fame over the years. But again, I'm not going to give too much more away at this point. Guys, feel free to roam around the ruins and whatnot, get your feelings.
And when did you say they rebuilt this?
Okay, so the original ones were going back about only 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
So they, because the ruins were being supported by these wooden brackets and rusted out pieces, they were afraid it was going to fall. So local efforts by activists in Ancaster and Hamilton got together, got the money. It was taken down and rebuilt from scratch. But this is all the original stone.
I was just going to say
yeah, all the original stone. It's back to the original plans of the house before it started falling apart.
Today we are visiting the Hermitage Ruins in Ancaster, Ontario. And this location is reported to be one of the most haunted places in Canada. Most people visit here in the night, and today we're here in the daytime. So the light lends to maybe a little bit of a lighter feeling when you're here, but already, and I haven't even gone into the ruins, there's major heaviness around this location. And I've got students with me today, so they're investigating too. And we also have a local expert with us who is letting us know the history of this location and things that have gone on here, but he's not going to share with us any of the reported paranormal activity that's gone on here until after the students and I have done our investigations. So we're off to do that now. right? Why are we not bubbling with protection today?
So then we can actually connect with the
Yeah, we need to engage with energy, right? And so if we're bubbling ourselves up, if we're tenting ourselves over, then we have very little or minimal ability to perceive what's around us. So we're not bubbling ourselves in protection. We want to carry protection with us, but the most important part is that your own personal energy field becomes very, very strong. So it's building that center of energy and power, the highest potential of power while you're in form. You really want to be able to generate that today. And that's how you're engaging and interacting. You're not shielding yourself. If you want to shield yourself, you're not going to be able to pick up any information. So if you haven't already done that and called in your team or spirit guides, whoever's helping you today, you need to do that now. I know it's lovely and beautiful here today because it's sunny, but I've never been here before. Another thing there. Second thing today. And historically, this is one of the most haunted places in Canada. So you need to be able to protect your energy by becoming powerful, not by shielding yourself. Okay, so we'll take a few minutes to do that before you do. Yeah, so sometimes when we're in locations that have a really low vibration or they're very haunted, you know, if the purpose of us going to those places is to go about our business and do our own things, then sometimes as psychics or sensitive people, we want to sort of bubble ourselves or to keep any lower energies out of our energy field because we're so sensitive to it and we, you know, can easily be impacted that way. But when we're coming to do a psychic investigation, right, we're coming here to pick up energy, to engage with spirits or ghosts, to learn about a place. And so if you bubble yourself, then it's sort of like a barrier between you and the information available around you. So my instruction to the students was not to bubble themselves because we want to be able to be receptors for information, but rather power their own personal energy up. You know, what it would feel like to walk in a room and be, you know, the boss of that space. That's sort of the energy that we need to come to these types of investigations with. And so it's important that they do that before they really go into a place such as the Hermitage. I love coming to places that have, you know, historical notoriety for being haunted. And I love it because probably about half the time, the energy in the place is lower. The land or historical occurrences might have, you know, what feel like heavy energy, but probably half the time that I go to these locations, what I discover is nothing that has been reported historically. So I think tall tales get told. I think myths become legends and things become stories that are told, but in real life, sometimes those things don't really exist. So I was really excited to come to this location to see who was available in terms of spirit or ghost presence and what the story of the land was telling us. And it'll be interesting to compare with our tour guide, Daniel, what is known, historical occurrences, what are historical reportings of paranormal activity, and compare all of that to what we pick up today. So when you say what's the challenge, I don't really look at it as a challenge. It is to say, you know, what do we see as the truth of this situation rather than what's been, you know, reported over the years and maybe been embellished in some ways. And then other times I visit locations and, you know, it's true to life. What's really going on there, or what's been reported by people over tens or hundreds of years is really, really true and still occurring. So the challenge really is to just discern truth of what's happening right now. Yep, right here. Everything changes.
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh, that is heavy. No, I just got like goosebumps, and then I felt like I saw like something white that just kind of. It looked like a cloud. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I like saw a cloud.
So true to what has been reported historically by probably thousands of people who have visited this location is that this place really does have the spook factor. So as soon as we walked up to the ruins themselves, there was an immediate shift in energy and everything got really heavy. And this really cool thing is happening too. As I'm listening to some of the students talk, okay, and I'm just sort of passing by as they do that, I'm hearing them talk about a change in smell. And as soon as I walked into this location, everything around me changed in smell. It smells musty. It smells, I can't quite find the words for it, but it's a little bit like garbage, and there's no reason that we should be able to smell something like that here. But the fascinating thing is that many of us are smelling that change. So that ability to tune into smell as a group is really, really awesome. The other thing that I'm picking up when I come in here is two things. I've talked a lot about imprints, or sort of like residual hauntings, or the recurring of previous occurrences still feeling like they're going on here. So there are major imprints going on here. I've got a piano playing in the background. I can see family and then no family. I also feel like there's a historical imprint of a woman all by herself here. And that feels a little sad, a little bit lonely. But the other thing that's even more interesting that I'm picking up is a younger male ghost energy that's here. I haven't fully engaged yet, but I've already tuned into him down in the far back location. The whole piano thing is happening in this area right here. I can see a living room, I can see the piano, lots of pictures, lots of wood finishes, like a ton of wood finishes, and it's not an empty room, it's like super full. And even though it's all gone from here, it's like it's here now. The energy of what was here is so strong. I can see it. I can see the whole image, and I can see the woman with family at some point and then by herself. And it's like, you know, echoes of history. She's in the room by herself, echoes of history, pictures of people who lived here, family who isn't here anymore. She's all by herself here. Now the woman's spirit I haven't tuned into. So she may be transitioned. We'll find out. Right now, it's just an imprint of her here. Okay, I have this distinct sense that whatever is here actually really doesn't want us here. Sometimes spirits or ghosts, more specifically, they know when folks come here who could possibly disturb their reality. And people like us coming in here, we are definitely people that could disturb their current reality. Why? Because we can assist or encourage ghosts to further their transition and to vacate a space, or to vacate a space. Sometimes both don't happen at once, but they know. And so 3 things have already happened since we've been here today. 1, you had a branch fall on your head and bounce off. The second was I had a really, believe it or not, a strong leaf land on my shoulder. It felt like water. I felt like I'd been pooped on by a bird. And then the third thing that just happened was a huge branch just broke off of that tree and landed right where we were all standing. And so there is this distinct understanding that whatever is here doesn't want us visiting here today. So to me, that's pretty strong, and it's pretty fascinating.
But it doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me. There's nothing for me to be afraid of. But other folks might feel like there is. And if you were to be in a place that would make you feel a little bit frightful, I'd say this is probably one of those places.
First of all, I thought it would be a great little day adventure. I didn't do any research, although I really wanted to. I didn't do any research at all, because the less you know walking into an environment like this, the better that you are. So at first it's a little bit confusing, because it is such a glorious day and there's such a beautiful wind and we're surrounded by nature. But it's interesting as you do walk down the pathway. I did hit a spot where my stomach lurched. So that was about halfway, I think, before we hit the guardian tree. And then definitely when we're walking up to the rune, there was a dramatic, okay, there's a non-neutral energy, so to say. I felt something something very strong around the doorway even. So to me, it kind of felt like there was something palpably wrong that came to this house. And then tried to and then automatically I was pulled right to the back, right, which I believe used to be cold storage, and I wish I didn't know that. So, of course, I'm not certain yet, but I felt running, people in the household that were running, there's a panic. I did get an imprint of fire. I think there are a couple of layers of history here. So, I mean, we wait for confirmation with Marianne and the rest of the students, but I did feel an imprint of fire. I also did feel, and this again, that pathway that leads to the back, I don't know why, but I felt that bodies had been stored there. There's something else that happened on this property that I'm still trying to go deeper into, but I can almost feel them carrying them along that pathway and keeping them in cold storage for whatever the reason is. So it's turned out to be, I haven't felt any sort of spirit energy come sidle up to me yet. So I haven't felt anybody specific, although I did get images of a female, potentially the lady of the house, long skirt. And again, this is something I'd still like to go into a little bit deeper. So not so bad for a sunny day trip. A walk in the park.
Historical and sometimes even ancient. The thing about the Hermitage Ruins is that the woods around it are really alive, okay? And of course we know we have live plants, but that's not what I'm talking about. There are spirits in the land here that feel very protective of this space, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what a lot of people report, feeling like, you know, sort of like things are watching you from outside the perimeter of this actual dwelling, because you can feel it really intensely here. But it's almost like they could be misperceived, because it doesn't feel like they're mischievous or that they are those spirits of the land which occupy lots of places. It doesn't feel like they are malevolent in any way. They just feel protective. And I feel like that presence is much stronger in this location than historical imprints of people that used to live here relatively recently. Let's talk in the last 100 or 200 years. These ancient spirits are much more powerful here than anything that's ever gone on here. I was able to tune into the young male spirit who actually does feel mischievous. And the way he presented to me was pretty fascinating. He actually looked like, similar to Daniel, our guide who's here, the way he was dressed. He had a sort of top hat and a vest on, and he came right over to my face, really, really strongly, with eyes really, really big looking at me. Also in an attempt to throw me off balance, but of course it didn't work. But I understand that he's actually lived here at some point, lived in this location. Maybe we can do some research to find out, but he feels like a younger guy. Maybe he had to do with horses, or like maybe fixing wagons, or I'm looking at wheels, and he's somehow associated with a vehicle that way. But it's not a car, so it predates that. It's like a horse wagon. So I'm gonna have some more dialogue with him to see what his story is, but he is definitely here, and a pretty strong presence at that. This is the spot that Daniel was talking about, where a woman was taking a picture and a black shadow started forming in the background. Oh, wow. Yeah. Whoa, did you just hear that? I really hope that that was on camera. Holy cow. There was just a really like gnarly noise that came from back there. Ooh, yes. Oh gosh, yes. Oh. Ooh. Oh. Oh, my whole body is in goosebumps right now. Oh gosh, okay. Oh, gross. Oh, yes. It's got a super, super low energy here. There's all kinds of just low vibrational energy and things back here. And this is a really good spot for them to kind of get away from the daylight. And I think it's interesting that it's actually really quite dark back there. I wouldn't be surprised at all that if taking a picture through this frame, something starts coming in from this side, because it's actually there right now.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was like.
I was just explaining, when I encounter like very, very low energy, I often feel like I have to throw up, and I have in the past. And so I haven't had that level of low energy anywhere here until that corner back there. And I understand it's not a single source. There are a number of things happening back there. But I think that it's interesting that they said they were drawn to tell the story on their ghost tours in this location. And I think that there's a reason for that beyond what they think the reason is, because it's a nice landscape, but it's really like, it's like there's an alignment of energy, these low energy ghost story tales, and there are things back there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can't really describe it beyond things currently, but it's a real big gathering in that spot, and it's very low. It's like, it's even like serpent-like, but not in a power way. In a sort of, I don't like to use the word negative or positive, but I would say like very, very, very low, like the lowest that it's going to come while something is still animated.
I get this, that sense, I get it back again. The dizzy, off balance feeling.
Yeah.
I'm getting that back again
Yeah.
in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was feeling more throat close, like in my throat. I thought I was getting it from the fire, but now I understand, because it was back here that I was
Okay.
picking it up.
Yeah.
That it was more
Yeah.
of a throat thing.
Yeah. I was just recently working on a location, doing a clearing, just further to what you're experiencing, PJ. And there was a very low vibration, grounded spirit there, and also other just like not great phenomena happening, not good people energy either. But as soon as I ran into him, because we actually ran into each other. Often when I visit homes, they try to vacate or hide, right? It's like he had no idea that I was coming until I was there, and we ran into each other. And my first physical response to encountering him was literally feeling like I was off balance and dizzy, and also a little bit nauseous. And that's often an indication, not just sometimes of off-kilter energy, but often lower energy. That's how we respond to it.
Yeah, it makes you feel nauseous, and like I said, it was the first place that I felt like I got pulled into. And I think Marianne's 100% correct in saying that too, with the pathway, the flow of the pathway, everything ends up right here, so that's logical too.
And that's when malevolent things may not happen to you, but I guess it would happen to you, some of the shows I've watched, because they're depressed and they're more vulnerable for things to attach themselves to them. That's what I've learned.
We have gaps in our auric field, so our energy field that surrounds us, right? And the things that create that gap can be our states of mind. It can be things that we believe in, things that we're afraid of. There can be all kinds of things, including even physical injury to the body. So when we have vacancies within the aura, that's where things attach to, right? And so when we come to do investigative work, there's a reason that we say we need to bolster from the inside out, because we need to fill our gaps, fill our holes in our auric field, so that there's no compatible space for a lower energy entity or ghost or ungrounded spirit, or grounded spirit, whatever this is, to attach to you. Yeah. And then it's also why we need to deal with fear bodies, because fear bodies occupy space in your aura. And that's why before you come out to do this workshop, we do the in-class portion, right? So we can talk about things that you're afraid of and why there are reasons not to be afraid. And in actual fact, why maybe sometimes there are reasons to be afraid, not because you can be physically impacted, but your energy can be impacted. And if your energy is impacted, that can affect your life, and that can have a negative effect on you. And so we deal with the fear bodies by replacing fear with education. Okay, and the education and your understanding of your own inherent power and potential and skill building to produce that on demand makes you a good psychic investigator, because you're not apt to take things home with you. Yeah. Cool.
I have a question.
Yep.
When's class number 2?
So class number 2 of this work is doing spirit releasement or clearing. But sometimes when you are either removing something from a space, because detaching something from a place or a person doesn't necessarily mean you're transmuting it. Sometimes you're just detaching and removing from the space, and then it goes and occupies some other space, right? So when you're sort of up against really low energy like that, they often, have a response to that, and it sometimes isn't mild. Right? And it can be it can be physically draining. It can be frightening. There can be all kinds of interesting imagery involved. They can touch you and you'll feel things that could be frightening. Like when I leaned over the window there, it felt like someone was trying to stick a dull stick into my neck. So things like that can happen all the time. And so that's the part 2 of psychic investigating, is now you know the lay of the land. Now what do we do to improve the situation? Either for someone who lives in that space or works in it, or if we feel like, the land is asking for help, then can we offer that assistance? So the idea here is you do more of this practice in your own spaces, like at home, friends that might say, hey, check this out, or go investigating on a day like today. Get familiar with the investigation factor, and then you go into the making a difference or making a change in the location.